to Stretford Paddock. It is Monday, the 11th of May. I'm slightly concerned that my mic might be slightly low there. Let me just turn that up a little bit. There we go. How's everyone doing at home? We're going to be looking at some pretty big news this week, actually, coming out over the weekend. A few pieces of news, a few chunks of news that are coming out Manchester United related. First of all, hope you've all had a good weekend. Let me know what you've been up to. Monday again, innit? First day of the week, back to work. Are we allowed back to work? No one really knows, do we? I'm here in isolation, again, at the studio, but no one's here. I haven't seen anyone this morning, just in case anyone was wondering. Yeah, I'm still not quite sure whether are we allowed back to work now? Or we not, don't work, but if you can work, work, but don't work. Right, cool. Okay, our first story then, let's get straight into it. Why beat around the bush? I'm already slightly late. Due to circumstances out of my control. Good morning, Eric. Morning, Ross. Morning, Pinch Weasel. Sounds a little slightly sexualised, but I've read it out now, so it's too late. We're going to be looking today then at this first main story is Swansea centre back. Let me turn that over. Swansea centre back, and forgive me if I'm pronouncing this wrong because I've not heard his name said out loud. And I've tried to find it out loud. I've looked for commentary. I've looked for highlights. I can't find anyone saying it. Let's get it up on the screen. Joe, I can get that bit right. Rodon, or Rodon, or Rodon. Let's not say Rodon. I'm going to say Joe Rodon. If anyone knows how to pronounce it, let me know in the comments. But it doesn't matter whether we can pronounce it or not, or whether I know how to pronounce it. I'm sure it's not a difficult pronunciation. This seems to be another one in the line of the Dan James signing. So the story here is that Manchester United are preparing a £20 million transfer move for Wales defender Joe Rodon after Ryan Giggs' advice. Again now, we are using Ryan Giggs as a sort of scouting network here. The same thing we did with Dan James. And we almost did the same thing with him, to him, with Dylan Levitt as well. I think there was a lot of suggestion from the youth team that Dylan Levitt was ready for a call-up for that Wales side, and I think he did get that call-up in the end. So it seems as though there is this kind of mutual sharing of ideas and players and that kind of thing with Giggs. And I suppose, whilst it might be a bit of a boys' club type thing where you end up getting some players that just because Giggs said he was good, we bought him and then he was crap. At least Giggs would be someone who has the interest of United in his heart as much as anyone could. So he's probably not going to be recommending players just for financial reasons or just to try and get a client of his some more money, like you may see with other transfers with agents touting players around it. If you're getting word from a trusted source such as Ryan Giggs, you would hope that he is at least, to the best of his ability, suggesting a top-notch player. Good morning everyone. Morning Emil. Morning Sanashan. Does anyone know how to pronounce Rodon yet? Rodon. Anyway, let's get into the story. And this one, it's been reported by pretty much everyone. It's in the Sun, it's in the Mail, it's in the Metro. I'm reading from the Metro just because it's sort of the least controversial of those newspapers. Again, it's I know the Metro aren't the most reliable, but this is being reported by everyone, reliable and unreliable. So, I'm just using these as a source rather than suggesting that they've come up with this story themselves. Manchester United prepare £20 million transfer for Wales defender Joe Rodon after Ryan Giggs' advice. Manchester United are preparing a £20 million transfer for Swansea City and Wales defender Joe Rodon on the advice of club legend Ryan Giggs. Rodon has played 46 matches for the Swans since breaking into the first team in 2018. And has made his international debut last year. Despite Swansea's mixed season in the Championship, the club are currently 11th, 3 points off the playoffs. Rodon has impressed and his performances have not gone unnoticed. Imagine if they had. What was he playing? Just didn't even know it. Completely unnoticed. What a shambles that would be. His performances haven't gone unnoticed though, so that's good. Wales manager Giggs is a big fan of the 22-year-old, and according to Mirror Sport, so that's their source on this, the Manchester United great has urged his former club to secure his signature. It is claimed that the Red Devils are now plotting a £20 million move for the defender, while Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is keen to bolster his squad at Old Trafford with the likes of Chris Smalling and Marcus Rojo set to leave. Giggs was influential in Man United's £50 million move for Daniel James last summer, and the Welshman had quickly established himself as a key member of Solskjaer's squad before the season was suspended. Swansea braced for offers for Rodon and may be tempted to cash in on the highly rated star, particularly with coronavirus affecting the finances of a number of clubs. Defending Premier League champions Manchester City are also... That's interesting, isn't it? City are still champions. Here's a question for you. What is the longest ever single season title reign? This must be it. Because if we don't come back till June, which we'll get to in a minute, will City have the record for the longest single championship sort of outing? What was it? What will it have been? Or April 2018 or 2019 to sort of mid-June 2020? That's an interesting one, isn't it? Been champions for well over a year, or they will have been. Rodon fits the player of profile that Solskjaer has targeted since taking over and could challenge Victor Lindelof and Eric Bailly for the position besides club captain Harry Maguire. Last week, Wales youngster Giggs likened Wales youngster Rodon to former Manchester United star Gary Pallister. Joe has grown a lot over the last year or so. He's quick. Sometimes you don't appreciate it. It was the day after the game we gave some players running drills box to box. He was running with some of the fastest and went past them effortlessly. I thought, oh, I hadn't seen that. It made me think a little bit of Gary Pallister. You don't think of him as quick, but when he got going at his peak, he was. When Pally got into the channels, no one outran him. So that suits the way I want to play. Let us know what you think to this one. I think it's a good look for United. I think, again, he's 22 years old. He's 20 million quid. Seems to be a highly rated player for Swansea. Personally, someone's saying Rodon. Ro-Don. So I'm pronouncing it Rodon. Yeah, Rodon. Rodon. Easy. Silent R. It's a silent R. What? Odon? Isn't that type of noodle? Someone's saying Rodon. Oh, God. No one knows. If you don't know, don't put it. Sounds more like Rondon than Rodon. Okay, Rodon. Jesus. Okay, so it seems to fit the profile of the players we have been signing, as they said there. And I think it's one of those things where he's 22, he's playing for Swansea, he's just broke into the Wales side. So this, no offence to him at all, but this isn't a player that has been... I've never heard of him personally. I don't know if a lot of you have up until this season. He's not the sort of name that's been sort of swirling around since he was 15, 16, like you get with some players like Bellingham or, Nick Powell, even previously was someone who, even in lower leagues, you sort of thought, we've all heard of this guy. But that's not to say he wouldn't be a good signing. It does seem as though Chris Smalling will be on the way out. He's already not been at the club this season. It does, again, like they suggested there, Marcus Rojo will be on his way out. Phil Jones is another one that could be on his way out. We're still unsure of the physical certainties surrounding Axel Tuanzebe and Eric Bailly's appearances in the side. And I think another young, he's the same age as Axel Tuanzebe, I think maybe a year younger, player coming in to help bolster that defence, to help give options, and someone that can improve and grow in a much better side. I personally think that would be a good signing. Let me know what you all think. Someone saying it's pronounced Schneeblay. Can we name him Jodan? Jodon. Yeah, let's call him Jodon. John Allen Owen says, I'm Welsh, mate. It sounds more like Rondon than Rodon. Yeah, I believe you. I believe that you're Welsh. So it's Rodon. Would a swap deal including Lindelof and Upamecano or Konate work? I don't know if it would work. I don't know what you mean by work. I'm sure if people wanted to do it, they could do it, but I don't think it's going to happen. Man United, the new Wales under-21s. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? There are always clubs that, look when Wenger was at Arsenal, they signed a lot of French players. Look at, Conte, when he came to Chelsea, got Jorginho in. There's always a sort of players bring, or managers either use scouting networks that they're aware of, or they bring players that they've used before. And obviously what Solskjaer's doing here is using a scouting network, in this case Ryan Giggs, and I'm sure United's actual scouts as well, that we're aware of. So I don't necessarily think there's a problem with that. I think finding people you can trust who aren't just trying to make you buy people for the money side of things, I'm sure is a huge issue in football, especially in recent years with the likes of agents' fees going through the roof and that sort of thing. I'm sure just knowing that someone isn't trying to have your pants down over a player is probably a good start that you don't always get with every transfer. It's pronounced Rodin. I can't do this anymore. I'm going Rodon because the Welsh guy said it was Rodon. So that's what I'm saying. John Allen Owen. It sounds Welsh, doesn't it? Rodon. I thought this was on about Solomon Rondon. We were linked with him in January, weren't we? He's no Maldini, but he's better than Lindelof. Well, some people, Lindelof is such a polarising character, not in the Martial sense where if you ever go in, people will just destroy you, but in the sense that some people think Lindelof is actually really good, and some people think he's utter garbage. I think Daley Blind was a lot like that as well. Some people thought, this is the sort of guy you could build a team around, great passing, reads the game brilliantly, can come out of defence, can play in multiple different positions. I was of the mindset that in the right system, he could be one of the better defenders in Europe, Daley Blind. I know that it sounds silly, he was slow and he got caught out for pace occasionally, but I think his reading of the game, his tactical awareness and his passing was, right up there. We saw that with some of the goals he assisted. And yet other people just thought he was utter shit. Like, look at Lukaku's bullied him for Everton. Oh, we've got to get rid of him. And I think Lindelof has a similar thing to him where it's sort of like, some people just see the good stuff that he does and think he's this very competent defender who's improved a lot this season, who's, ended up being in the side that's got one of the most clean sheets in Europe this season. And then other people think he's an utter waste of time. And, even amongst the office and amongst the people at the studio, that opinion is split. So it's a strange one. I think, it goes anywhere from a really good, promising player to garbage. Joe Rogan. Yeah, it's Joe Rogan, that's who it is. How dare anyone speak ill of Daley Blind, magical footballer? Well, I agree with you. Like I said, I was of the mind that he could be, playing for Barcelona or playing in a side that brings the ball out from the back and, one of the better defenders in Europe. Again, it sounds silly if you don't think that. It sounds mental, because a lot of people thought it was rubbish. Even if he's not very good, Rodon would be an upgrade on Sir Philip Jones. Well, there's that option. There's also, like I said, we're probably having a couple of centre-backs leave us this summer and we could do with replacing them. I must admit I wasn't a fan of Blind, but in hindsight, he was the least of our problems, a good utility player. Yeah, exactly. Right, let's move on to our second story today, and this is a big one. This has sort of been breaking over the last day or so, kind of culminating in a flurry of news after Boris Johnson's pre-recorded message last night. And this one, let's get this up, is a Premier League return date has been largely agreed to. And this one is coming, again, this is one of those things that it's everywhere. It's in the Telegraph. I would have read it from the Telegraph, but it's behind a paywall and I don't have a subscription to the Telegraph. So I'm reading it from Manchester Evening News instead. Premier League given green light to return on June the 12th, 1 month from now. All 20 Premier League clubs will meet on Monday, that's today, to discuss Project Restart after Boris Johnson's briefing on Sunday. The Premier League has reportedly been given the green light to return on June the 12th. Now, this is something, that date of June the 12th is a day that we've been seeing and hearing and rumours of had been floating around for about a week or so now. So the day itself, like I said, has kind of been in the air for a while. But the new news is this increasing sort of succumbing to this I'd say pressure, sort of suggestion from the Premier League by the government that this can go forward. Boris Johnson's address to the public on Sunday revealing a plan to guide the country out of lockdown in the coming months. On Monday, the Prime Minister will reveal in Parliament further details of his roadmap, hopefully, to get out of the lockdown with a government paper on elite sports. Woo! To be expected to be published on Tuesday. Report the Telegraph. Like I said, this is a Telegraph article, but again, I don't have access to that, unfortunately. These plans will give the green light for professional sports to return next month, including the Premier League's plans to resume on June the 12th, subject to safety conditions being met and coronavirus infections rates not rising. However, Boris Johnson's go-ahead comes up as 8 Premier League clubs are expected to argue against the use of neutral venues and for Project Restart to be put back at a crucial meeting on Monday. So the neutral venues thing seems to be the main sticking point. I think it was specifically the bottom 3 clubs or the bottom 6 clubs and then 2 other clubs is the way I saw it. 2 other, and it was quoted as substantially further up the club, up the table. You could see why a relegation team would want to play some games at home, although no fans in the stadiums, I guess, does change the sort of the mood of any kind of home game quite significantly. Some clubs threatened with relegation, there you go, are said to be opposed to the prospect of playing crucial fixtures that could define their league status away from their home ground, even behind closed doors. And you can see the point. When there's literally hundreds of millions of pounds at stake, and in some clubs' cases, I know this is, maybe an over-exaggeration, or should I say an exaggeration, because over-exaggeration is, unnecessary. In some clubs' cases, this could be the future of their whole club, because let's say you're, it's hard in the Premier League at the moment because the money is so vast, but we've seen it with Sunderland, we've seen it with Portsmouth, we've seen it with Leeds, we've seen it, with the likes of Wigan, with the likes of Bolton. These teams that, in their time in the Premier League, seem like they'll be here every season. And then you go down, and not only do you not come back up, you get relegated again. And especially you've had 3 months of what will have been 3 months, no ticket revenue, completely diminished revenue in terms of shirt sales and all that kind of match day stuff, because no one's been going to the grounds. You've then got to play games at a stadium that you're not used to. And if you go down, and you've already lost this huge chunk of money from the season, you may be in a position where you can't recover from that. So I can see why you would want any advantage you can, even if it's just the sort of sensibility and the reliability of being in your home dressing room, especially for the teams fighting relegation, because it can define a club's decade getting relegated out of the Premier League. Some clubs bop up and down. Cardiff we see come up and down. Norwich we see come up and down quite frequently. But yeah, the likes of Bolton, they're not coming to the Premier League anytime soon. And you're only 3 or 4 bad seasons away from looking at liquidation. So I think I can completely understand it. This is from David. Out of interest, what level of social distancing or protection would you find acceptable to go back to Old Trafford on a match day? I honestly don't think we can have football in any capacity with fans. I mean, you could probably, if you limited the number of fans in each section to, if you took it down by 60, 70, 80%, even then you've got 35,000 people at Old Trafford. That's essentially a full, that's more than is at Bramall Lane. That's more than is at most stadiums in the country. And that would be half capacity. You'd have to take it down to probably 10,000. So you've got one person with 5 empty seats around them. And even then, I can't imagine a situation where there's any fans, because in the concourse and on the stairs and on the handrails and on the, people, are they serving drinks, are they serving food? All of these things, just the people who are working in the stadium, working behind the food counter, all that sort of thing. These people are all in contact with each other. These people are putting the crisps on the shelf, holding the glass, passing it to, I can't imagine any sort of fans at football grounds until there's a vaccine, personally, because it seems so unnecessary. Obviously it's necessary, we'd like to be at the ground, but in terms of, we don't really need fans at football matches, in terms of the game can go on without them, and it's football is a luxury at best, isn't it? So I can't imagine there being fans at football matches on any sort of major scale until there's a vaccine, personally. Let me know what you think to that in the comments. I just think, the amount of people as well, you go to a football match, it's not 20-year-olds, it's everywhere from 100-year-olds down to 20-year-olds. So there's a lot of vulnerable demographics that go to football matches. And I can't imagine a world where we're back in stadiums before there's a vaccine, personally. Aren't all businesses going through the same as what small clubs are? It's the same dog-eat-dog world. If you haven't catered for uncertainty, you will suffer. If you have, you won't. No, they're not really. First of all, it depends what you mean by small business, because there's furlough, there's small business loans that are going out to small businesses. I don't think a 10 grand loan is going to stop Sunderland going out of business. Football clubs are in a sort of potentially, again, not all clubs are run like this, but a lot of them their wages are much higher than as a percentage of their overall income than most small businesses, for starters, because it's a bit more of a risky, there's so much money involved, you kind of chance it, you kind of do things this way. There are plenty of clubs in the Football League whose wages are higher than their incomes for the year, which is insane. And most small businesses aren't run that way. And if you're a really small business, like I said, a 10 grand loan, a furlough of up to £2,500 per person per month gets you through a time like this. If you're a football club, it doesn't. So I would have to disagree with you there, I think. And I also think preparing a business based around an idea that there's going to be a 3-month period where you can't work due to a global pandemic would stifle so many businesses in a startup phase that you basically wouldn't be able to have any new companies. If you had to save up enough money to be able to live for 3 months or 6 months or a year around a global pandemic, it's already difficult enough for new businesses to survive their first couple of years, let alone having to plan for that sort of thing. So I think I would have to respectfully disagree with you there. I just don't. Global pandemics that happen every 100 years isn't part of most businesses' contingency plan for some reason. Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things that it's like saying we didn't plan for an asteroid to land on the pitch. It's like, no, we didn't, because it don't really happen very often, does it? Good point. As sad as it is to say I agree, Joe. Yeah. Oh, I thought you meant as sad as it is to agree with me, but you mean about going back. Yeah, I just can't see how it could happen. I can't see how it would happen. Right, that's going to be all from me today. We're going to be back this afternoon for Howson's Brew. Again, are we looking forward to the Premier League coming back, or is it all a little bit, are we taking resources from where they're needed? But let me know in the comments whether you think that the Premier League should be coming back. And to David's question there, what would it take for you to go back and watch a game at Old Trafford? Because, there's a lot of risk involved at this point. Right, thank you very much to everyone for joining me at home. Like I said, this afternoon we've got Howson's Brew coming up. We've also got memberships. If you'd like to join, click the join button. And if you are a member, we did upload the second episode of Off the Record, our members only podcast, and that is in the member section. So if you want to go and check that out, if you haven't seen that already, make sure you do. Thank you very much to everyone again for joining me at home. We'll see you this afternoon. Bye-bye.